Here's the mute button.
There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twitch Tuesdays at the TRU Library. Once again, I'm Ben Mitchell, and just again a reminder that we're going to be moving to a far less regular schedule as we go forward today. Mainly, we'll be having events when we actually have guests from various groups and departments. And on that topic, I am happy to introduce you to Sheryl-Lynn Lewis and Lorry-Ann Austin. Well, feel free to introduce yourselves.
Sheryl-Lynn, you go ahead.
Hello, welcome. My name is Sheryl-Lynn Lewis. I teach on campus in Kamloops in the Education and Community Support Workers and the Human Service Worker program. Frogs!
Yeah.
I also do a lot of theater in my life that isn't involved in school.
Oh,
So
cool. Good stuff.
this is something new to me, though. I am not a gamer by trade or ability.
Good stuff. Well, there's a game for everyone. It's like there's a book for everyone, I feel, as a librarian. That's
Awesome. And hi, you can hear me okay?
Yep.
Lorry-Ann Austin. I'm chair of the School of Social Work and Human Service and teach mostly in the Human Service program.
Cool.
I'm excited to be here.
Cool, yeah. So talk about more of your work, what students might expect in your program, talk about some topics that are relevant to your work. One of the reasons why I chose Papo and Yo, for those of you who don't know, is that it's a game that very kind of gently, but still in a very poignant way, tries to talk about topics relating to a child having an abusive parent who is an alcoholic. Which doesn't sound fun, but once we get into it, I'll show you how it's actually kind of like this really interesting way in which how the child uses fantasy worlds and like problem solving, puzzling to kind of navigate that space. So we are going to deal with some potentially heavy topics here. But yeah, without further ado, how about we just start up the game to get the introduction, and then we can start talking more about your work and the stuff you do. Oop.
Sounds good.
All right, here we go. Created to my mother, brothers, and sisters, with whom I survived the monster in my father, Banda Caballero.
Oops.
Beautiful imagery.
The theater person in me loves the light.
It's very artfully done.
Yeah. So I don't want to interrupt because I'm so interested in watching it.
It can be tricky when you're streaming, that combination between talking and... Yeah, so here's the gameplay a little bit. So yeah, I'll just kind of like get my bearings. Feel free to...
Sure. So, so in the School of Social Work and Human Service, we definitely, we work with, we're preparing students to work with people navigating all kinds of challenges in our world. And one of those challenges definitely can be related to family violence. Sheryl-Lynn, in fact, you're teaching a course in the Human Service program sort of related to trauma now, this semester, right?
Yeah, it's one of the courses that we do in the final year for the 2-year program. It's a child and youth care course that is trauma-informed practice.
Okay.
So what we're looking at there is how do we set things up in our places and in the work we do so that we have an understanding that people have trauma in their lives and that we can make places welcoming and practices welcoming that don't create further trauma as people experience going through the services that we offer.
Indeed. Navigating like any kind of like support systems can in themselves be quite re-traumatizing, as I understand it, just because of the nature of the experiences and the nature, like what it does to your sense of trust and your sense of safety. And it can be just very destabilizing.
Yeah, that's one of the
Uh,
things that we definitely try to prepare students for or aim for is being that helpful guide or that helpful person that can walk beside somebody as they're trying to access services to help make that whole process less stressful.
Yeah.
yeah. And safety and trust is actually one of the 4 pillars that we build trauma-informed practice on, including trauma awareness, collaboration, and relationship. And of course, now that it's time to say it, the 4th one has run away from my head. But yeah, so
No worries.
it's
Safety,
very much
collaboration,
identifying that.
choice. Did you say choice?
Safety, choice, collaboration. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. Oh, this is just how it actually shows you like hints. You stick your head in a box.
yeah.
Neat.
Like one of the things that's striking is like
It's like the transmogrifier.
How do I get the box off my head though? Okay, there we go. So yeah, so like there is a sense of play in the game, right? Like it's dealing with heavy subject matter, but even the way the world's built and like these imaginary kind of gears and puzzles and cogs as you try to navigate through it. You know.
Right. Yeah.
It's fascinating to watch. I get how people like to watch other people play the game. So
oh yeah, it's definitely
like you're building.
I like to
building your way through, which is
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I liken it to reading together, honestly. Like there's a kind of like shared experience in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice.
Story is an important part of the work we do as human service workers or child and youth care workers as well. That use of metaphor when we're interacting with youth and young people is vital to helping understand the world and create change or opportunities for change anyways.
Very much so. And I find that when things are like too awful, too intense, using metaphor is kind of the only way to communicate it. Or again, when you're dealing with very young kids, you know, trying to explain depression to like a 2-year-old, you know, being like, you know, well, sometimes people kind of like, you know, feel sick in their bellies and sometimes they feel sick in their hearts. And I don't know, there's various ways of communicating complex and big ideas in ways that are still hopefully accessible and relatable to children. Box on head.
Youth care practice, box on head. Child and youth care practice that we include. There's at least two courses in the human service worker program that are under the label of child and youth care. And then next year, we're introducing two courses of child and youth care human development into the education assistant and community support worker program. So it's exciting times. And
absolutely. And the cool thing too about our programs is, I mean, if we talk about working with children, is that all 3 of the programs within our school do interface with children and families often in some ways, right? So the education and community support certificate, what does that prepare students for specifically, Sheryl-Lynn?
Yeah.
Work in the school system as they used to be called EAs, education assistants. If you're really old, you might remember them as TAs, teacher assistants. And now we've graduated to CEAs, which is a certified education assistant.
Okay.
They're the people, the adults in the school that help youth and children who are struggling with social emotional issues sometimes or with academic learning difficulties. So they're the main, the one-on-one type support people and who work in partnership and under the direction of teachers. So that's one part of the education assistance. And then community support is for, we have a focus in the program for working with people with disability.
Okay.
So, and that includes in the school systems as well. So our practicums might be at the Chris Rose Therapy Center for Autism with People in Motion, or Options and Opportunities, which are all places that support people with diverse abilities.
Okay, interesting. And what does some of that support look like? Like, how do they support them?
It's so varied and it's all individualized. As one of our main values, but it could look like sitting.
I was going to say, we always take a person-centered approach, and every person might need something different, right? And so that's one of the tasks about learning to be an education community support worker or a human services worker or a social worker is that you need to learn kind of the art and the science of the job, because it's not like there's a prescribed do this and you get that result, because you're dealing with people, you're working with people, right, and walking alongside people. So
I don't know how to get this soccer ball off my head.
It used to be a box.
Yep.
Now you look like a mushroom. So you might see people like a CEA walking with a child through the hallways and having a discussion, or sitting quietly and doing some regulation exercises.
Okay.
Not so much anymore doing like a spelling test with kids.
Okay.
Like it's really gone into the behavior, social, emotional support side of things rather than academic support.
All right. So when you say like regulation exercise, you mean like emotional regulation, I assume, or like what sort of regulation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it could be like a 4x4 breathing technique where you breathe in for 4 and then you hold for 4 and breathe out for 4.
That seems so.
Right. So those things.
Oh, sorry. Please continue.
Yeah, things that settle the body and calm the brain and help us to focus.
Yeah, it's that parasympathetic nervous system action. Because so much stuff with trauma kind of like makes you like disassociate and like into memories and sensations and impressions, and just trying to ground yourself in the here and now in a positive way is so important.
Yeah.
Whoosh.
Yeah. So that's one of the assignments that the students have in the trauma-informed practice course, is to take our class through a grounding exercise. So they do that in practice with their peers in the classroom.
Okay, cool.
And that's in the
so I'm learning
human
all sorts of new things.
And that's in the Human Service Diploma program.
Okay.
Which a little bit different from the EECS program. Do you want to share what that prepares students to do, Sheryl-Lynn?
So the Human Services program is a 2-year diploma, and at the end of it, students are often hired into social support agencies.
Okay. So social support agencies such as.
So, for example, they might work at like Ask Wellness, and they might assist people that are having difficulty finding safe and affordable housing, or they might assist people that have, needs to have access to harm reduction services, for example, if they're using substances, all kinds of different. So that's one aspect of it. Then, and they could also work at. Kamloops Brain Injury Association, or I don't know, lots of different places.
Kamloops Immigrant Services, the BGC, formerly the Boys and Girls Club, if you have an interest in working with youth, often will hire people from our coursework as well. And there you're supporting youth. It's a drop-in center, so for teenagers, everybody's welcome to come and it's kind of like you don't know who you're going to get on that day. So part of what we do with the students that we're working with is really emphasize that flexibility in thinking, that decision making in the space and time, so that they can be informed when we need to make those in the moment decisions. So that's
it can quite a bit of emotional work too for the worker, I imagine. That's like that caretaker fatigue, or like
and that gets addressed kind of throughout the program, but also in your trauma-informed practice class, right, Sheryl-Lynn? It's a much learning about how to assist others, but also keep yourself healthy too.
Our the first thing we did in that course was actually talk about our personal care plans and how do we create those, how do we make, and it's meant to be a personally important assignment and recognition, so that it becomes useful for the students.
Well, sorry about to distract
now you have a fish on your head.
Now I have a fish. I think they've added the hat since since the last time I played this game.
There you go.
But yeah,
and then the final program that we have within our school is the Bachelor of Social Work program. And the really cool thing about all our programs is a person could start in the EECS program, getting their education and community support certificate. Then they could go out and work for a while and come back, and they could enter in the second year of the Human Service Diploma program. They could go out and work for a while, and then they could come back and they'd be in the third year of the Bachelor of Social Work program.
Okay.
So that program starts in its third year, and it really prepares students for the next level of service provision. So assessment, providing service plans that maybe other professionals on an interdisciplinary team would follow. Those kinds of things. And you see social workers working in places like Royal Inland Hospital. They work to support children and families with Ministry of Children and Family Development, other government agencies, really all kinds of justice system, all kinds of different places.
Yeah, it's quite a flexible career path then, by the sounds of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The one common thing is that you should want to work with people.
Yeah.
In order to be successful, it's very much working with people, that face-to-face interaction most of the time.
Yeah, being personable.
So that's an important piece of it, and it's really about relationship building.
Oh my goodness.
So
sorry, yeah, relationship building.
the houses are moving.
I think it's what these little things on them do. Oop. But yeah, right. So it's almost like these. I think this is set in the favelas of Brazil, I believe, and it's like this kind of like everything's kind of like children's toy kind of themed, but also in this very kind of like more kind of like inner city urban environment.
Yeah, the other commonality I think the other commonality with all the programs, or with what a person would kind of need going into the field, is that ability to really think outside the box, which this game is sort of showing you to, but like the ability to think differently about how to navigate different services and structures that maybe limit people or get in people's way of being who they want to be.
Yeah.
And so really trying to think outside of those structures to help people attain their goals. But that's the key, right? It's not the goal you have for them, it's the goal they have for themselves.
Yeah. It's not quite as intense, I imagine, but even doing kind of like a library consult, I'm like, what kind of research does this person want? Well, not what I think they need, but like how do we connect it to their
that individualized, and then it also includes that self-determination, like what are they wanting to get, right? So that they're making the choices, and we're supporting and helping them find the solutions that are going to work for them.
And that's why trust is so important, and having rapport and all of those things.
Yeah.
Part of what we do too is like we have many communications courses. So I know the first, like EECS and the Human Service Worker program, both have a first year communications course, and then Human Services goes on to have two more communications courses.
Okay.
Yeah, and then social work even goes further with additional and advanced level and communications with diverse populations in particular as well, right?
Very much so. Different groups have their own kind of communication needs modes. Again, you use the example like autism, ADHD. Autistic folks, we communicate differently on average. Express ourselves, even just like navigating things like alexithymia and I see. Oh, this is a time trial, isn't it? Okay, how do I reset this? Because I think I know what I need to do.
Okay, what is it? Tell us.
Okay, I need to. Okay, 1 second. I need to reset this puzzle a little bit.
Okay.
But
need to get all the houses to line up.
Well, when I jump on that thing up there, the little squiggly bit, it opens that gate, but it's only for a short time. So I need to do I need to put all these houses back?
You need to have everything prepared.
Yeah.
You need to have everything prepared for the gate.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You need to put your blocks in order so that you can make that. But yeah, okay, good stuff. Yeah, and even talking about the role of educational assistants or whatnot, and trying to identify needs. I know my partner does educational assistant work in Austin, in a bilingual school, Austin, Texas.
Nice.
And
wow.
talking about when you have a young child, for example, something like ADHD and trauma might have somewhat similar effects on that child's ability to focus.
Absolutely.
And so then how do you actually make that distinction or find ways of like finding out where the child's at and family life and all sorts of things. There we go. Phew.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, there's a whole
Hey.
conversation in the field now about, you know, um, purpose and function of diagnostic labels, and can we just attend to the needs that present before us?
That's true.
So instead of getting caught up on is it this or is it that, can we just say we can see that the child before me needs this?
Yeah.
Let's get that.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done though when like services and funding requires a diagnosis often to get support.
Insurance, like, is my understanding the DSMs, like insurance agencies have a lot to, like, I'm not saying all these things are made up, but insurance agencies, as I understand it, do play a role because like how something is legally defined that affects, particularly in the States, what you can actually get, what kind of help you can get. And so you kind of, diagnostic access is unfortunately a requirement, even if you don't believe in it as a, biomedical entity or as like a specific kind of like, ideology.
For sure. I know here in the school systems to get a categorization as a student that then would allow you extra funds for supports requires a diagnosis.
One of the things, we just had our teaching practices colloquium this week. And one of the things I was talking about was the difference between accommodations versus accessibility. And how in some ways, if you've gotten to the point of accommodations, you've kind of lost the point of accessibility in the ways in which, even to get help at any university, you need to have a diagnosis. At least on paper, that's a requirement.
Yeah, and that's here as well, right? The interesting thing about the school district here, and probably across BC, but I'm familiar with the one here, is that the IEPs, the individual education plans that help guide students who have difficulties with learning, are now changing from that deficit to a competency-based.
Oh, interesting.
So
I like that.
now it's like, so it started in September this year. So it's another way of looking at things, like what is the child doing, what can they do well, how can we improve that?
Yeah, it's like again, topic close to my heart: neurodivergence, neurodiversity. Like, full disclosure, I found out in 2019 that I'm autistic, and that really changed my world and put a lot of things into perspective because I didn't see myself in the deficit models. I was like, well, yeah, life's been hard, but like I thought life's hard like for everyone.
And it is in some respect, right? Everybody has their challenges, but that's cool. I like that shift in language can make such a difference, right?
Hugely.
And
I don't know if you know Dr. Devon Price's work, Unmasking Autism, but there's much more liberatory models coming up of neurodivergence, ADHD, autism, all those sorts of things, which is one of my own personal interests in social work and working with kids and working with, people of all ages, really. Let's see, how does this work? Do competencies. There we go.
And this character is Yo, right?
Yes. And the monster is Papo, which I almost fell off that house. We haven't seen Papo yet. I don't remember exactly when he comes into the narrative. I think it's pretty soon. Oh yeah, almost.
Does Yo encounter any other beings? Oh, there we go.
Oh, speaking of which, it's still relatively lonely, but not entirely. Because one of the things, he's always trying to catch her, and he never can. Okay, this is getting a little bit. This is more of a, like, you can see you're on lines here, right? Like, you've been given a whole bunch of freedom, but now you can only follow that one white line very slowly, right? The way it's reflecting on memories and dark memories, and there's only one path you can take. It's the way that the game is an interactive thing. I have to push the button to go forward. I have to kind of participate, even if it's just to recognize that there's so few choices here.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that's how people feel trapped as well, right? I mean, the one downfall, if it call it that, in our courses is that there's not, because we have so much content we're trying to cover, there's not a lot of room in the first year, especially for extra coursework. Like, we have 10 courses in the EECS program that are that are chosen for you. So like, you have to follow that
Oh
line.
no, this is intense.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah.
sorry, yeah, yeah. That little robot is he's
That's
he's
okay.
holding it in the closet, right? So like, there's a sense of the imaginative world, the ways that it talks to you. You. But yes, you were saying.
Once the students get into social work, Lorry-Ann, they have
Yeah.
the ability to choose.
Yeah, in Hums they have some
What
choice. There's some arts electives that they can take, as well as some electives within Hums. And then once you go into social work, yeah, there is that ability, a much greater ability to kind of select areas of interest. So international social work. There's trauma-informed practice if you want to delve deeper into that topic area of social work. There's mental health. There's a substance use course.
Okay.
There's a family practice course. Like there's all kinds of different electives, and I'm forgetting probably rural social work. That's a real important one for us where we're living in the areas that we reside here in Quebec. There's lots of folks that access service from rural areas, and rural social work helps consider, like, do they have what kinds of services do they have available, and what challenges present and strengths present from living in a rural setting, right? Because there's challenges and strengths.
Very much so. Yeah. I grew up in a village of about 2,000 people, though I know there's even more rural spaces to be from.
Yeah. That must have been interesting. 2,000 is quite small. The smallest place I've lived is Kamloops.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. No, it was. It was certainly a thing. I have complicated feelings about where I come from, but I suppose a lot of folks do.
Tell me more. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, there was a lot of issues. There was a lot of need for social work. There was a lot of trauma. There was a lot of, oh my goodness, falling off of buildings. No, not really, thankfully. I get back up there. Because I think that there can be like an isolation and not knowing where to turn for help, and the lack of access to resources. But that can be hard when you're navigating these systems anyway. I spent a bit of time with the Toronto Injured Workers Legal Aid Clinic, just in their kind of like archive and library section. It's just like so many of our systems of support as a society, you can't navigate alone, particularly when you're in a state of crisis, or if you're from a vulnerable population, or you don't know the language, or like those sorts of things. So it's why kind of social workers and these helping professions are kind of vital for us to even have a society, I would argue.
Yeah, absolutely. We always say we like to work ourselves out of a job, but it just doesn't seem to happen in the way society's structured, right? Yeah.
We talk about the same thing in classrooms in the EECS program, but it's kind of like a box of Kleenexes. Like you help one and you pull them out, but a new one pops up.
Yeah. Oh my.
Yeah.
So,
Living in a small community is actually kind of what motivated me to do. I have a degree in child and youth care, so that lack of access, that lack of supports for people that were my age. I grew up in Fort Nelson, which is like not the very northern, but one of the more northern areas in BC. So there wasn't a lot going on. There wasn't a lot of help. And so spending overnight with a friend who was in a really difficult place, kind of that impetus to, somebody's got to get out there and support youth and support kids, and that's what motivated me when I went into university, like to find a way to do that.
Yeah, no, that is really important, and it's very noble aspiration. How have you found your time? Sorry, yeah.
We sometimes refer to child and youth care and probably social work as well as a calling. Like there is that inner impulse to help and to support and to be part of that relationship.
Yeah, that can. But that can also present its own challenges too, right? Because like,
yes,
for looking after
healthy
yourself.
Boundaries.
I don't know if
healthy boundaries are a must.
Yeah, in librarianship, there's been criticisms of that particular notion of the profession as a calling. There's a term for that that's called vocational awe, and the ways in which we can kind of like not necessarily be the best at advocating for ourselves in a workplace setting context.
Yeah.
Because it's a calling. Personally sacrificing is part of the oh my goodness job. Oh, Okay, I guess that's
You don't need to get paid. You're just doing it because you love it.
yeah. Or like, well, you have to work yourself to exhaustion or to burnout because there's only so many people, and who else is going to do it if you don't, and so on and so forth.
That's yeah. I think that we find that in social services as well, right?
But
Because
we get to be
if you're
social
not
justice warriors,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah. That is cool. That is cool. A lot of respect for the social justice warriors here on the channel. As a person with a background in history, I kind of viewed myself as a social justice necromancer, doing the Dungeons and Dragons references.
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
No, I think that's that social justice piece. Like Sheryl-Lynn really highlighted, the relational piece is core to the work. Social justice too. Like we don't ever want to work with a person to fit them into a broken system. We do want to meet people's needs that they come, like that they present with. You don't want to ever not acknowledge that, right? And sometimes that means fixing what's happening now, but we always do it with the idea in mind of, can we make the system better as we're attending to these pressing needs?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of what distinguishes our professions, I think, a little bit from other helping professions. Like, for instance, not that I'm saying these ones don't, but for instance, nursing, right? The focus is very much on attending to emergent medical needs,
Yeah.
whereas, yeah. So.
Okay, yeah. I'm curious. So what sort of ways, like, if in your own experience, professional experiences, have you been able to like focus on more of a systemic dimension to the work? Because I can imagine it's quite hard. Like I think in some ways I'm grateful for my background as a historian, but it does tend to lead to a certain degree of paralysis looking at like the vast swaths of human history and how big social movements are and social forces and institutions and laws and norms and prejudices and all of that stuff.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
huge, right? It's huge. And one of the biggest things is trying, and we try to help students come to this realization too, but you get really frustrated with systems and you tend to think, well, then I'm not going to go and be a part of that. I'm not going to go work there.
Yeah.
But if you don't go and work there and try to change it from within, how's it going to change? So that's one way we engage in social justice, is by going in and doing the work differently.
Oh, I like.
Sheryl-Lynn?
I'm thinking, like, I wasn't directly involved, but changes happen slowly within systems, especially things like school systems. But one of the big wins before I left Williams Lake, the particular school I'm thinking of, there was a youth who identified as transgender in an elementary school. And the school was responsive and listened, and they remodeled the bathroom area
Cool.
so that it's an open space with like 6 doors. Each door leads to its own toilet, and the sinks are down the middle, and the space is open. So it's really made it accessible to everybody, right? Without saying this is the bathroom only for you, but it's like remodeled the whole idea of the bathroom area for that school, and then that was used as a model in 2 or 3 other schools in the district. So that it's small but vital, right? It really starts to say that.
Very much so. Here's the first sign of the monster.
Thanks.
I spent a bit of time helping out in Pickering in Ontario at a group called Queer Rights for LGBTQ youth writers. And overwhelmingly, the kids we were getting who were homeless were trans kids whose parents had kicked them out. And like that was a big eye-opener.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like Ivan Coyote put it, like just a safe place to pee.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I've had a fair bit of Ivan Coyote with my partner, as well as Esper Bergman's work, if you're familiar with him.
not so much, no.
More like a Jewish trans writer, does a lot of like memoir stuff, and based in Toronto these days, as I understand it. The Lair of the Monster.
Is that their lair?
Ooh.
Huh.
I think.
So some of what we do can be very at an individual level. Myself and a couple of colleagues did an advocacy curriculum just recently based on with the use of a SOTL grant from KELP. So we developed a 2-day or 4-hour coursework and practice the skills. And we partnered the EAKS program, Education Assistant Community Support, partnered with the Esther program to co-deliver the curriculum together. So
Oh, good stuff. Yeah.
that was, yeah.
Those
And
collaborations
so
are
that
important.
advocacy, yeah, collaboration, that was fun. It's a good thing. But that
Do you know?
that advocacy
Do you know?
piece.
Oh, sorry. I was just
Go
going to
ahead,
say,
Lorraine.
Ben. Do you know what the Esther program is?
Please enlighten me.
Sheryl-Lynn, you can share because you were working with them. Yeah.
Education skills training. The Esther Market is on the second floor in Old Main. They have 3 streams of students who are diverse in abilities and also possibly neurodiverse. And so the one stream I'm most familiar with does the cooking. They sell soup. They make all the
Okay.
recipes. They sell soup at lunchtime on Wednesdays and Thursdays. The Esther Market is another stream, and they have all the little trinkets and gifty things that you can go and buy there.
Okay, cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
social enterprise, right? So
that's it. Yeah.
it sells products and goods and helps the TRU community by providing delicious lunches, and at the same time, the students there are are engaging in learning and development, and possibly going out then after to have careers in the area that they're learning in. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff.
Well, that's a piece that we haven't really talked about, Lorry-Ann, is the practicums. Because the Esther students go out to practicums.
That's right.
And the Saskia Stinson is the professor I'm most familiar with, and her students are in the cooking program, and so she's arranging practicums in commercial kitchens and restaurants for her students. So if you're
and our student, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, so if you're in the EECS program, the main place we do our practicums is in schools, because most people want to be an education assistant. That's why they've signed into the education assistant program. And so the opportunities for high school or elementary, depending on your interest, as well as community support pieces with People in Motion or other programs that support people with disability, and the Chris Rose Center and things like that. And then, Lorry-Ann, you're probably more aware of the HUMS.
Sure, yeah. Students in the HUMS diploma program they have 2 practicums, one in the first year and one in the second, and they might be placed at places such as Kamloops Therapeutic Riding, which does equine therapy with folks. They could be at they've had placements at Interior Health, although that's generally more a social work placement, but there are some life skills placements with Interior Health that human service diploma workers can be hired into. Also, like places, community agencies like Canadian Mental Health Association, working in some of their supported housing placements or shelters, Ask Wellness, Kamloops Brain Injury, tons and tons of different community, Kamloops Immigrant Services, lots of different places. And then the BSW, they have 2 placements as well, one in the 3rd year and one in the 4th year. And those are supervised by a social worker, could be with Interior Health, anywhere in the hospital, community mental health, Ministry of Children and Family Development. Yeah, lots of options.
Good stuff.
Yeah. One that we haven't actually touched on is also cultural placements.
Okay.
So Lima Chief Opatisimiswak, LMO. It's a Métis Indigenous social agency, social support agency.
Interesting, yeah.
And LMO supports from infancy into old age and elders.
Okay, yeah, and that's so important, that being in communities with the cultures that are affected, because you can't just go in from outside and just assume you know best.
Yeah, and I think we have some with Kamloops as well, Lorry-Ann.
Yeah, Kamloops, we've had them with Shequetmuk Child and Family Services as well, and
And then there's that whole other campus piece we're missing. So you can also do your EECS. Yeah, you can also do your EECS program in Williams Lake. We have the same program running in Williams Lake. So if you're not living in Kamloops or you want to live in a smaller town and do the program, you can go to Williams Lake and do it.
Okay, good stuff.
Human service diploma programs there as well. Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah,
that's right.
There's a lot going on in Williams Lake. That's also where the 2 years of nursing happen, and several other programs.
And they have a really healthy trades program there too.
Cool.
Is the monster sleeping or vanquished?
He is sleeping.
Okay.
He's sleeping it off. I bounced on his belly.
I like
to
your
get up
little.
here. Oops, sorry.
I like the jetpack.
Yeah, it's actually the toy
With the
robot
robot
that's
thing.
helping you. Yeah. Oh, it's a little bit dark here. Let's see how to navigate. I like puzzle games, but like when you're watching, sometimes if you're just like watching me try to sort it out again, I'm like, well, might not be the most engaging watching me.
I don't know.
Try to jump up.
That's kind of like how some of us live their lives, right? Like, we're kind of in the dark until we bump into something.
That is very true as well.
Yeah.
Bouncing around. But yeah.
Hopefully you have a friend to give you some guidance.
Or at least a jetpack. Settle for a jetpack.
Yeah. Wait, there's a box you can put on your head.
Oh, you're right. Maybe I should. Box.
Or a fish.
Or a fish.
I think this is just going to tell me to bounce on his belly. You can climb on Monster's belly while he's sleeping. No. There's more. There's more. Box back on. We're not finished here. Move the camera to look at where you... Okay, so I can control the jump. Press space to jump high. All right. Box off.
That's good to know.
I think it's interesting, right? But like the box is kind of like, you know, the kid, Papo is like, or Yo is like hiding.
I think we could all use some of those boxes along the way.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Right,
Maybe they're just like books under a different name.
Yeah.
There we go. Huzzah. Oot. Yeah, and like the graffiti is all really interesting too. And
Oh, yeah.
all right. Okay, let's see.
Wow.
So I think this one's going to be where we start actually interacting more with the monster. With what are these? What do I do with these? Oh, I think I remember.
Somewhere, one would presume, or plant it.
That's right. No, I think in this case, you're trying to entice the monster to come to these. Because that's the interesting, like, and the kind of like the thematic of this. Because Papo, like, or Yo needs the monster to progress. I think it's an interesting way of kind of like, how do I get the monsters? An interesting way of trying to like represent like the complexities of having a relationship with a caregiver who is abusive or, you know, perhaps absent in ways where like as a kid you still depend on the adults in your life even if they're not the most optimal adults.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids always love their parents, right? That's Ooh.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
Have we talked about how to get into our programs, Lorry-Ann?
No, I think that's
No. Go ahead.
Talked a lot about what they are.
Yeah. Also, for EECs and HUMS, it's completion of high school or mature student status, right?
Okay.
Sheryl-Lynn?
There we go. Get your attention.
Yeah. And there's an application form, but yeah, just the English is the requirement, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
English
to have
and-
proficiency English. And then usually there's is there a reference letter for EECs as well? There is for HUMS.
There is. Yeah, there's a reference letter.
So that's just somebody speaking to the student's ability to kind of be a good candidate to work in this kind of field, right? One that requires a relational approach.
Very much so.
And then the BSW is you enter in your third year, so you have to have already, I think it's 54 credits minimum.
Okay.
Either general arts, or you might have a human service diploma, or other credits, and then you come in and you enter in the third year. So often we have students that have come in, they might have been taking psychology or sociology or those kinds, political science. There's a lot of political science affinities within social work too. Yeah, and they come in from there, or they come in through the human service diploma program.
Okay. And now, is there one of those like are there a certain like grade point that matters, or does it place more emphasis on like life skills and experiences? Like how does one like? So
for EECs and HUMS, there isn't a grade point because it's first year entry, so they can be coming right from. But for social work, there is. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what it is, but there's a GPA requirement, the credit requirement, and then students also write an admissions statement.
Okay.
And evaluation is based on GPA and the admissions statement. So it's a competitive entry program. Yeah.
Good to know.
And then you can do your first year in EECS and then a transfer into HUMS
Okay.
to do your second
Yeah.
year.
And then transfer
So
into
if you
BSW.
Yeah.
so if you decide that you've had a bit of education, you discover that you really want to work with more in a social work kind of way or human service worker, you can go straight from the first year EECS program into the second year HUMS program.
Okay.
And then if you decide that the Bachelor of Social Work is that upper level assessment and social justice warrior is what you want to do, you can level up.
Good stuff.
That's right. Level up, yeah.
What am I doing now?
What would we say those are that you're holding there?
They look
They
like
look
fruit
like
of
glowing
some sort?
acorns.
or like
but-
coconuts or something.
Yeah.
Oh, coconuts, yeah.
Except I
I
don't
was
know.
going to say an apricot, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. I'm just feeding him, but I don't know if I need to actually do more.
If you have to get them to go somewhere.
Oh, he's falling asleep. Okay, yeah. I just have to feed him enough until he falls asleep, and then I can bounce on his stomach again.
Oh,
There we go. That's like
it's gonna fall onto the little.
like it's kind of charming, but it's also can get scary because the way that the game presents the narrative, the monster is once he gets some frogs in his system, he turns scary. Frogs being the metaphor here for alcohol.
Right.
I don't know. Are we gonna get that far today, or
If this last puzzle might be, we still have like 15 minutes or so.
You
Yeah.
played this game once before to the end, right, Ben?
Yeah, many years ago. My memory, unfortunately, is not that good.
Okay.
there's been many other iterations of other games?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So you just turned them around.
Yep. Yeah. That's the thing too, right? Because part of the thing here is, oh, I shake it. That's right. Is that you do need to bring the monster with you too, right? To progress. So, you get yourself through, and then you get the monster through.
And then you have to bring him along.
Yeah.
Do you
Can't
recall if
outrun
it,
your monsters. Is that?
I mean, talking about
I was just gonna say, do you recall if it ended well for Joe?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's bittersweet in some ways, because part of it is about him learning that he needs to leave the monster behind him.
Right.
At the end of it, he can't continue like that.
Yeah.
Come on.
Or maybe he outgrows them.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
No. There we go. No,
Run!
when he's dangerous, you'll know it.
Oh, so he's not dangerous yet?
Not yet. No,
I like the white lines that help you figure out where to go. I could use some of those in my life sometimes, right?
Yeah, that's one of the things too. A video game is a design space, and there's a lot of things you can think about design thinking really by looking at the ways that video games use non-textual cues to just help guide your behavior and help you navigate a space. All right, I see what I'm supposed to do here. Which I don't know, how much social workers help to design spaces or situations.
Well, we do put a lot of thought into trauma-informed spaces.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so trying to make environments. No environment is ever truly safe. So you have to acknowledge that, right?
Yeah,
You can't know what everybody needs, but trying to make environments that feel safe for folks that access services.
Yeah.
You talk about that a little bit in the trauma class, I think, too. Hey, Sheryl-Lynn?
We do. And also it's one of the sort of the principles of child and youth care is that we work in the child space, but then we control the elements of it to make a more of a therapeutic space. So the types of conversations we have, the types of activities we might do, the way we join in with the person in their space is what makes it that therapeutic relationship rather than a friendship or a parenting relationship necessarily.
Okay, interesting. And how so? What's the distinction there? Those between the.
It's so the conversations you might have, or like when we're, it's kind of like the deliberate conversations that we're having when we're playing this game, or when we're watching you play, right? So I'm really aware of the EECS program, some of the elements around that, what's important about it, what makes it unique, why people might want to come. And so I try and involve that in my discussions.
Okay.
So when I'm working with a young person and I know that maybe they're having difficulties with friends at school or building relationships, so while I'm playing with them, we might play a board game and we might talk about how you can invite your friends to play and what it's like when you're winning and losing, and how does that affect, like how does the words you use when that happens affect your friendships?
Okay, yeah,
So
kind of
have
emotional
that sort of,
intelligence stuff.
yeah, it's,
The other thing we do with space is try to view the space as if it wasn't one familiar to you, and how would it feel walking into that space if if it wasn't necessarily a place you wanted to go but needed to go. And
Yeah.
so like can do simple things by making spaces feel welcoming and inclusive for all, by ensuring you have a diversity of people on pamphlets and
Yeah.
in places, and
Yeah.
all kinds
Yeah.
of different things like that too,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. Yeah, I'm thinking about yeah, even like I imagine like lighting and just physical
Yeah.
positioning. I, for instance, very much struggle with when I first came to the library that like my back was to the door, with the window, and it's a very vulnerable feeling. And even just like that, like how you feel when you're in a space like that, being mindful. Like actually, yeah, no, I don't. I feel way too on edge when
Yeah.
my back's to the door like that.
and I think we embody that when we're doing our instructing at the university as well, so that I'm very aware when I'm teaching the trauma informed practices course that I'm doing trauma informed practice while I'm there. So
Yeah, yeah,
we have a group project, for instance, and rather than me forcing people into groups, people are choosing their groups.
yeah,
So they're
yeah.
choosing for safety and they're choosing for
Yeah,
trust
yeah, yeah. Not just like
and who
forcing
they're
them
going to
together because they
collaborate
have
with,
to learn
right?
to work together. Because like, no, that's yeah. As someone who's always struggled with group
Yeah.
work in like a high school setting,
Yeah.
I
Right.
appreciate the value of
So
that.
yeah, so trying to really not only just teach the
Yep.
concepts but embody the concepts is really important. And controlling the environment, again, I often will turn off the majority of the fluorescent lights and try and have as much
Yeah.
natural light in the space as
Yeah, yeah.
possible.
Because some of us are light
And
sensitive. That's the thing.
well, yeah, and the buzzing, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
like lots of
And I don't know about you.
things going on.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I like with a lot of like mental health care professions. Oftentimes, the people who go into them themselves go into them because they've been through things, or like they've been on the receiving end
Yeah.
of things, and so they want to try to help others because they're particularly aware of what it's like to, to be struggling in that way.
And that's one thing we really
Yeah.
value in this field too, is lived expertise, right? And so there's more and more research showing that having peer support and peer support models to at least be part of the service continuum is super successful for people,
Oh, very much
because
so. Uh-oh,
we all
okay.
go through things, right?
Here
So
it
yeah.
comes. Gonna get scary. A little. Well,
Oh.
the coconuts aren't good enough. He smells the frogs.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
And it's raining. That's never a good sign.
Yeah. But yeah, and also that's one of the reasons why in a lot of my teaching I do tend to self-disclose, because like I have a lot more interesting and meaningful discussions with neurodivergent students when I reveal I too am neurodivergent, and it creates that space of possibilities. Okay, yeah, he's getting the. I need to like progress this space before he gets too scary. How do I get through here? I need to get up there, but if he he's where do I go? Where do I go? Where do we go? Okay, they've all gone into the tube. That's one of the things too, that you actually have to antagonize him to progress. So like there's no way of doing this.
Productive?
Sorry?
That seems counterproductive.
Yeah, it kind of forces you to engage with him when he's at his froggiest.
I guess that's like a way of learning skills, but
Yeah.
the person inside me says, no, be
Yeah.
safe,
Right.
Yeah.
be safe.
True. Oh my, but yeah.
That's
But
probably why I don't do well on video games. I
that's
talk about risk, but I am risk averse when it comes to video games.
but there are like also like more chill games too.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I think
I don't think I'm supposed to be able to do this. I think this is okay, the game. like Stardew Valleys, and like that's the thing. It's not all like first-person shooters or. Oh wait, actually,
I know. Crash Bandicoot and
yeah.
Super Mario
There's one game I actually
when our
played with.
kids were.
Oh yeah,
Go ahead.
Crash Bandicoot and Super Mario when your kids were.
Yeah, when my kids were younger, and that's how those are the ones that were in our house.
Good stuff. When I was playing with Brenna from Educational Technologies, and we actually played a game called Unpacking, which is just this kind of like tableau of looking at a person's life through all the moves they've made, and you're just basically sorting out things in space, and it's like just like a very kind of meditative, thoughtful, artistic kind of experience. Okay, so let's see. I need to get him on this, but he wants the frogs in that pipe. I don't think there's a way for me to get him to get on that without it. Yeah.
To get some frogs.
Yeah, unless what's this?
Maybe.
Yeah. Just like, sorry,
It's kind of how we go through life, right? We just try random things.
Basically,
hopefully with a little bit of signposts,
that
like the white light here.
Yeah, a guide.
It's It's interesting though in this game that Yo is so on their own because in our fields we would be wanting Yo to have somebody helping them. I guess maybe the robot is sort of a helper,
but I also understand like in those situations you do feel very alone. Like for those like trauma and suffering can be very isolating in a range of ways.
Right.
Like strength based, so the ability of Yo to go through and solve the problems and be there for himself, and as he's growing and getting more experience, and as we're learning, right, he's able to do more, able to be there on his own. Put the frogs in the box.
No, unfortunately the box only tutorializes, and I'm not entirely sure what I need to do with this spiral. I don't need to throw my robot at it. That's not okay. I'll listen to the instructions. Bloop. Frogs, pick them up or drop them gently. Splat them on walls to make them disappear.
Oh boy.
Okay, I forgot about the splatting. Which is again like kind of like the kid getting rid of the parents' alcohol.
Yeah.
Splat.
They're so cute. They cuddle you. Don't splat me.
They're also huge.
Yeah. They're not fluffy though, so it's okay.
Oh, you don't have to be fluffy to be lovable. Okay.
It isn't easy being green.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so no, there's no more frogs here, so he's lost interest in it. Okay, there we go. So we're not going to see him go super angry mode just yet.
That's all right.
But yeah.
And there you go. You've got the magic beans to draw him to the box.
All right.
Maybe they're coffee beans. They do sort of look like, the coffee fruit before it's...
that's true.
Coffees are cherries.
Yeah, it's true. And honestly, I've had some like just coffee beans that were like unprocessed, and I'm like, you would have no idea that tastes like coffee if you just ate the bean.
Right.
I don't know, like whether the roasting of it is just such a transformative process. All right, up we go. Okay, yeah, we're not. So we're not going to see him go scary mode, and maybe that's for the best for today. But yeah, is there anything else you'd like to kind of talk about before we kind of conclude for the afternoon?
Just that this has been a very neat experience. It's been wonderful to connect and chat over the video game, and yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, no, always happy to have you on again if there's particular things you want to promote or talk about or explore or certain themes. Because it sounds like the work you do is so diverse, which is not something I fully realized.
That is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of opportunities, something for everyone.
That's a message, I suppose, to leave anybody who's interested in the programs. Is there are so many diverse places you can work with a certificate, diploma, or a Bachelor of Social Work degree, like diverse areas of practice and in high demand. Very high demand. Most of our students get hired while they're in our programs, which is a whole nother challenge.
Understandable. Yeah, no, it's a whole world of things, and we always need more help. That's for sure. Well, all right. Well, on that note, I guess we are at. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
was going to say thank you for the invitation. Most appreciated.
Oh, well, thank you kindly for being on. And thank you everyone for watching. Hope the rest of the day is kind to you, and I will see you next time on Twitch Tuesdays. Cheers all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.